Hello, everyone. Hope everyone is doing well. I hope that everyone's staying safe, staying as healthy as you can, because we keep having so many things happening. I'm tired of living through historical event after historical event. It's a lot going on. But hopefully, you all are good. I'm doing okay. Yeah, just work, trying to find a job, trying to relax, trying to do a lot of stuff. So, today, my original idea for this video, I've had this idea for a long time, was to compare Marilyn Monroe and Dorothy Dandridge's music. Say that 4 times fast. But I decided, you know what? They both deserve their own shine, especially Dorothy Dandridge. Marilyn Monroe has probably thousands, if not hundred thousands, if not millions of things about her, and I love her. But I feel like Dorothy Dandridge needs more recognition. So I'm doing this. I'm gonna do 2 videos. So this video, I'm gonna talk about the documentary that I watched on her and about her life and about her music. And then I wrote a letter to her. And then next week I want to watch Carmen Jones, her most famous movie. She was nominated for Academy Award for. She was the first Black woman to be nominated for that, for Best Actress, which is huge. And I want to watch Porgy and Bess. So of course one is free and one is not. So I'm gonna have to spend a little coins to rent Carmen Jones, of course. Unless Tubi in like a week's time changes or has something. So yeah. But yeah, I would like to talk about those 2 things today and then talk about her movies next week. So it's gonna be a 2-parter. But I'm just gonna title it whatever I talk about here and then title it next week. Whatever I talk about then. So I'm gonna just give you. So I'm gonna mix it in because I didn't make notes while I was watching the documentary. So I'm just gonna mix it in. The documentary I watched is called Little Girl Lost. It was aired on A&E or Biography Channel in 1998 or 1999. I could not find a director, but I really liked it because it had people from her actual life on there. Her ex-husband, I know one of her ex-husbands was there. She had 2 ex-husbands. One ex-husband was on there and his brother. Her best friend was there. It was nice seeing people like that actually knew her on there. You know what I mean? So Dorothy Dandridge was born Dorothy Jean Dandridge, which I find really interesting that the DD, but I thought maybe she had changed her name, but she had not. So she was born November 9th, 1922 in Cleveland, Ohio, to an entertainer named Ruby Dandridge. And I'm gonna say this name wrong. Cyril Dandridge. I think in the documentary they just called him Cy or something. And he was a cabinet maker and a Baptist minister. And they got separated before she was born. Actually, they made it seem like the mom ran away from him and kept continually running away. Maybe it was an abusive situation. I can't really remember. It is on here on YouTube if you want to watch it. Actually, it's here twice. So I watched one that was 45 minutes, but there's another one that's 42 minutes that is actually called Little Girl Lost, Dorothy Dandridge, which are the same thing. So yeah, it's only 45 minutes, even though, I know our attention spans are this long right now with all of these short videos coming out all the time. But it was really worth the watch, honestly. And on Amazon Prime Video, if you have Amazon, they have an even shorter documentary, which is 28 minutes. I think it's on Amazon Prime. It's called An American Beauty. Dorothy Dandridge, you can look it up. I think it's an episode of a show where they talk about different actresses and actors and other famous people. But yeah, and she passed away September 8th, 1965. She was an American actress, singer, and dancer. She is the first African American film star to be nominated for Academy Award for Best Actress. Like I said, for her performance in Carmen Jones. She performed as a vocalist in venues such as the Cotton Club and the Apollo Theater, And during her early career, she was performed as part of the Wonder Children, which was her and her sister. But then there was another girl that was added, but they were called later called the Dandridge Sisters, and she appeared in a succession of films, apparently uncredited, which I'm like. And then in the documentary, so I'm gonna mix them together. They do talk about her getting bit parts and doing all these things and doing soundies where you would like play it on a jukebox and you can like watch it, and they were really cute. So that's about her family. Oh, well, Ruby, her mom, created the song and dance act for her two daughters, Vivian and Dorothy. And then her lover, which is interesting. She was in the church and she wrote poetry and she did these things, but her mom was a lesbian, and had a lover named Janine Williams. And Williams was bad tempered and said to have cruelly disciplined children. So she was abusive. And at one point, to make sure that Dorothy was a virgin, she examined her, and Dorothy was tired of the abuse, so she punched her. I don't know where she punched her. I guess in the face. But after that, they called her Neva in the documentary. Geneva. She left her alone, because at that time I think Dorothy was like 19 when that happened. But however, during the Great Depression, obviously nobody has money to pay to see people, so the work dried up. And she was in the Chilling Circuit Performers. That's what they were called. So that work dried up. But they ended up moving to Hollywood. She found steady work on radio and film, small domestic servant parts, which she didn't really like. Okay. So there were three Dandridge sisters, but only two of them were actual sisters. But they had a schoolmate named Etta Jones who was a part of the act. Once they relocated in 1930, she attended McKinley Junior High School. That's just a little fact. So she met an acquaintance named Dor Shari, which resulted in her being cast as Jane Richards in The Bright Road, her first starring role, in which exposed herself as a wonderful emotional actress. Which the trailer was to. I guess I said that in the trailer, which was to promote it. The film, centered on a teacher's struggles to reach out to a troubled student, marked the first time Dandridge appeared in a film opposite Harry Belafonte, which I think she was also in Carmen Jones. They also play other things together. So Carmen Jones, I'm gonna skip, was, her big starring role. At first in the documentary, they say she didn't get the role because the director thought she was like too polished and not down to earth. So she went and like did like kind of a makeover kind of thing. And then when she came in, the director was like, "This is Carmen Jones." That's how she got the part. So it was a box office. It had favorable reviews and was a box office success. It earned $70,000 its first week and $50,000 in the second. Dorothy's performance as a seductive leading actress made her one of Hollywood's first African American sex symbols and earned her positive reviews. And on November 1st, 1954, she was the first black woman on the cover of Life magazine. And they showed the cover in the documentary, so she looked nice. I told you about the nomination. So I told you her ex-husband was on there. His name was Harold Nicholas. I wonder if he's still alive. I'm not sure. I did not look it up, so I can't tell you for sure. But they met at the Cotton Club. He's a dancer and performer. I'm sure if you have, I think they're called the Nicholas Brothers. They have a lot of work of them doing like choreography and stuff together. They married on September 6, 1942. That marriage was not good, though. Nicholas was a cheater, and he was not very attentive to her. He would go play golf. He would go do things without her all the time. In the documentary, it said that, she was very lonely. One of her friends was named Geraldine. So they also called her Jerry. So Jerry was saying, he wasn't really around. He wasn't really, being a good husband, basically. By 1948, Nicholas had abandoned his family, so he just left because he got a child with him. Dandridge filed for divorce in September 1950 and is finalized in October of the next year. She did have only one child. Her name was Harold Suzanne Nicholas. She was born September 2nd, 1943. So they tell the story in the documentary. She was like waiting. This man had left to go golf. He just left her stranded. And she wanted to wait so long for him to come home to be able to see the birth of the child. But after a while, she couldn't wait anymore. So the delayed birth meant they had to use forceps to get the baby out, which sounds absolutely terrifying. And they said this may have resulted in brain damage that left her requiring lifelong constant care. She was, they said the R word in the documentary, but I'm going to say she was mentally handicapped and probably physically handicapped her whole life. Dorothy did blame herself because, she thought she could go to the hospital. If she had went to the hospital sooner, her daughter would not have had the lack of oxygen that made her the way she was. But, she was trying to wait for her husband, and her husband wasn't doing what he was supposed to. So, Harold Lynn was unable to speak and never recognized Dandridge as her mother. And then after a while, I'm just going to mix in stuff about the documentary too. So in the documentary, they do say that when she got with her second husband, let me bring that back up. Harold Lynn, they called her Lynn in the documentary. Lynn needed a lot of care, like on the clock, constant care. It was really expensive. So, Dorothy had to keep working for that, I'll get to the other husband and his foolishness, but let me go ahead. So while she was filming Carmen Jones, she had an affair with the director Otto Preminger that lasted 4 years, and he tried to advise her on her career, but he gave her wrong advice. He just told her, make sure you're always in starring roles, so she would just not take anything, and she felt like it stalled her career. She later regretted taking his advice. She became pregnant by him in 1955, but was forced to have an abortion by the studio. She ended the affair when she realized Preminger had no plans to leave his wife and marry her, which, just as advice for anyone who's in this situation, just assume the married person is just never going to leave. Don't even get involved, girl. She had a second marriage. She married Jack Denson on June 22nd, 1959. In the documentary, they do talk about him being like in a huge amount of debt, and he owned a club. And after they got married, this is after they got married, he told her, hey, I'm in a lot of debt, so you got to work at my club to help me pay this debt. And he was very controlling and abusive. And yeah, she had a lot of financial setbacks, so she had to help this man with his debt. And that also resulted in her having to like institutionalize her daughter, and not really being able to take care of her like she really wanted to, which I feel like is really sad. They did divorce in 1962 because of the domestic violence and the financial issues. So we're going to skip a few years. So Geraldine was like her former sister-in-law, but they were really like best friends. They talked all the time. They were together all the time. Everything. So on September 8th, 1965. So in the documentary, they don't really talk about this. I mean, they kind of do. They say basically Dorothy did not want to be woken up early because she did have a flight, but she was like, hey, don't wake me up too early, for the flight. Just wake me up on time because she wanted to sleep in. And when Geraldine didn't hear from her, I think it was our manager actually didn't hear from her, then he went to the house. So basically, Geraldine was saying, she was on the telephone with her, and Dandridge was, supposed to fly to New York the next day. She had a nightclub engagement. So Jerry told biographers that during a long conversation, Dandridge veered from expressing hope for the future to sing Barbara Streisand's People in its entirety and to make cryptic remarks before hanging up on her, saying, "Whatever happens, I know you will understand." And in the documentary, they do say she left a note about, like, hey, if you find my body, leave it with the clothes, whatever is on it, just leave it. My mom will know what to do, to cremate me, like all these things that she wanted, to happen to her, which is really interesting. And she signed it. And then several hours later, they found her naked and unresponsive in her apartment by her manager, Earl Mills, because he was concerned. Because, he had, in the documentary, they say he'd been calling the house, and she's not responding. So he went over there because he was, concerned. So it says that she had her cause of death was accidental overdose of an antidepressant, imipramine, which they say in the documentary she also abused alcohol and she would drink. She abused alcohol and she would take the pills, so it was probably a combination of those two things, like just overloading her system. On Wikipedia, it also says that she had a pulmonary embolism or something because her foot was broken or something, but they don't talk about that in the documentary. But I just wanted to bring both up. They think it was an accident. They don't think she was suicidal. So, yeah. And she had her funeral. I didn't put these in my notes, but she had a funeral. But then they did cremate her like she wanted. So I'm going to talk about my main takeaways from the documentary. She had to deal with abuse from childhood on, like constantly. And like a lot of her relationships, she had to deal with some kind of abuse, whether it was neglect, whether it was physical abuse, mental abuse, control. And she did not seem to have found her true love, unfortunately. And she was only 42 when she passed away. That's so young. She wanted more for black people and be treated with respect because in the documentary, talk about one hotel she performed at, she demanded a room. And they were like, okay, fine, we'll give you the room. But when she wanted to go to the pool, all of a sudden they drained the pool. So it's like, you're this big star and you're still being discriminated against. And it still happens today. All these years later. It's just crazy to me. It's just so crazy to me. Over 40 years, give or take. You know how I'm not good at math. But, yeah, it's just so crazy. And she wanted the best for herself and her daughter, but was disappointed when she couldn't live up to the standards that she wanted for her daughter. And like I mentioned, she maybe committed suicide because of the note. But I don't really think she. Well, in the documentary, they do say that Geraldine said that Dorothy said that she was tired. Basically, I guess tired of life. It says it was an accident overdose officially, so I guess we won't know because we're not in her mind, But it was a really good documentary. It was really thorough, and I do at some point want to watch Introducing Dorothy Dandridge because Halle Berry was on there and she plays her in that movie, and I think she financed and produced it. Don't get me to lying, but maybe I'll talk about. There'll be a lot of stuff to watch. Maybe I will squeeze it in. I'm not going to promise anything. I'm just going to only promise I will watch Carmen Jones and Porgy and Bess. That's what I'm going to promise. So, yeah. But, yeah. And then I listened to her album, Smooth Operator. So, in Wikipedia, she never had like an album when she was alive, but they found these records and they put them all together and put them on vinyl to have them together. I think it was actually in 1999, just like, the documentary. So my overall opinion, I did not review every single song, but I'm going to give my overall opinion. I think this album was really relaxing and smooth. It really was. I feel like if you really want to relax, this album is great for you. Dorothy has a soft and soothing voice. I know these songs weren't put together until after her passing, but the only thing I do wish is that it had been arranged differently. It had more of a mix of slow and upbeat songs. Because honestly, the whole first half of the album is 16 songs. It's like so slow. And then towards the end, it like picks up. But, it would be nice to like mix them together. really love, my favorite song was Stay With It. I love how upbeat and hopeful it is, and it's encouraging someone in love to keep their love. It's a very sweet message. So it's like, if you want to be in love, stay with it. If you want to be in love, do this, do that. It's really cute. I would give it a 6 out of 10 because Dorothy is nice to listen to, and the music is nice on these tracks. So, yeah, some of the music, like I said, towards the end, it's really good. Towards the beginning, it's really slow. But like, it would have been nice to mix it up. But I understand it was put together after she was passed away, and yeah, no, it is what it is. But so I need to re-upload this video. But I also wrote a letter when I reviewed the movie Aretha, and I decided to write another letter for Dorothy. So it's called Dear Dorothy, but it's a letter to her. Dear Dorothy, you deserve so much more. You deserved so much more. You deserve to be as big as any white actress from your time. You had the shine and the talent to go far. I wish you hadn't taken the advice of a fool. But love makes you do crazy things. I wish you had realized there were people in your life who loved and cared for you. Because even in your passing, you still received love. Which I just want to mention, I think both of her husbands or ex-husbands went to her funeral. So I'm like, that's a strong bond right there. You were a woman with guilt and wanting to be accepted and loved by men who never deserved you. I do think people misunderstood you, though, and I wish you could set the record straight. Because Halle Berry was in it, and she was like, oh, she found love in all the wrong places. Like, yes, she did. But she was also trying to diagnose her with manic depression, which she might have had. But looking back on the past, I mean, she was not diagnosed. Well, I guess she was diagnosed with depression because she was taking antidepressants. But, I feel like with all of our knowledge now, we want to diagnose people from the past, but we also, like, can't really, because we don't have them here to, like, really for sure say. It's like a muddled kind of thing to do to me. But yeah, alright, let me keep going. I wish you could speak for yourself and your legacy. But your talent and beauty can speak for itself. You're forever immortalized in film. If only you could have known the barriers you broke and how you still make your people proud. Love, someone you inspired deeply. Because, yeah, she did a lot of groundbreaking things. She was also in, like, a few movies that had interracial relationships. Some of the codes, especially in America, of course, were we're still a racist country. It ain't really stopped. But basically, she was in this one movie, and she was like a African queen. No, was that the one? No, it was a different one. But it was an interracial relationship. But he could not say, I love you, because of the codes. And they couldn't kiss. But she did have a movie in Italy where she was able to actually kiss the guy. And it was like revolutionary. It was like, wow, this interracial couple actually kissing. And this movie was made in Italy. So they have different laws and codes over there. Or back then they did. Yeah, I don't know what they have now, but yeah. Ooh, sorry. But they had, different laws, and they had I don't think it was the Hays Code, because I feel like there was two different codes. Because the Hays Code was like in the early days of film. But they had another code that they said prevented them from like kissing and stuff on screen, which is it's just so insane to me. Like, we're all just human beings, but because one human being is lighter than the other, they treat the other one like crap. It's really disheartening. But I really enjoyed learning about her, and I cannot wait to watch, Carmen Jones and Porgy and Bess and tell you all what I think about them. I know Porgy and Bess is a little controversial because it apparently has stereotypes of like black people in it. I will tell you what I think next week though. But yeah, hope you all are staying good, staying healthy as we can be, because it's like 45 different plagues happening at one time, it feels like. But yeah, I will see you all next week while we continue to talk about the late great Dorothy Dandridge. Okay?